Gears of War is now on PlayStation 5. That's crazy. That's nuts. That's just like I can buy Gears of War, the remastered Gears of War on PlayStation 5 and play it on a PlayStation console. There's just crazy shit going on over at Microsoft right now. There's crazy stuff going on over there because, there's been a lot of cancellations. They've been canceling a lot of exclusive projects. They've been shutting down studios. There's all sorts of weird shit going on at Microsoft lately. And another thing that's been going on is a lot of games that were going to stay exclusive to the Xbox consoles is coming to PlayStation. It gives me hope that eventually we'll get Halo, because I miss Halo. I mean, it's probably more than anything I can think of on Xbox. I really miss Halo. Imagine playing Halo on PlayStation. And I say this especially because while this is a great thing for Gears fans, and it is a great thing that, it's hopefully a sign that more and more of these Xbox exclusive franchises will come to PlayStation because, hey, more people get to play these games. That's a good thing, that's good. But unfortunately, I do have to say that for me personally, now I've never played the sequels. I've never played the Gears of War's sequels. I've only ever played the first game. It came out on 360 way back in 2006. It's crazy how old that is now. That's so long ago. But this game was a big deal when it came out. Gears of War was a big deal. It was kind of right alongside Halo as like the big exclusive, Xbox exclusive shooter franchise. I don't think it ever blew up as big as Halo did because Halo was the biggest thing Microsoft ever had as far as game franchises go. But Gears was still up there, and the very first game was a big deal. It did sell really well. People loved it. It introduced a new style of cover-based shooting that was, it was pretty original, it was pretty different. But I have to say, having said all that, I'm not a fan, believe it or not. I loved Halo, but I'm not a big Gears fan. There are a number of shooters from back in the day that, I could either take or leave. But while I did pick up and play the original Gears of War back when I, had a 360 for the first time, and, the part of the reason I never got around to the sequels is because, well, I didn't have an Xbox anymore by the time Gears 2 came out because, the Red Ring of Death happened and I moved over to Sony and stayed on Sony. I just couldn't stick with Xbox 360 after that. But regardless of whether or not the sequels would have been more for me, I can only go by what I've played on with the original game, and that's what's been re-released and remastered on PlayStation now. So, I was thinking about it. I was like, $40, okay, looks like a good remaster, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I did play this game, I did beat this game. Why did I not like this game that much? Because I played it, I beat it, I even replayed it. So it's like, okay, clearly I didn't hate it, but maybe it was just visually impressive enough at the time that I didn't have like a ton of games on 360 yet. So I was just like, I was digging into it, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I've never had a desire to go back to that game. And I think a big part of it is I just don't think it's that good. I will say that the stop and pop cover-based shooting, and the chainsaw gun, like that stuff is satisfying, that stuff is fun. I liked the core gameplay well enough, but there were a lot of things about that game, even at the time, but especially now with all the other shooters that have come and gone that have kind of like been influenced by Gears, that I think have done better. We'll get to that, but I just think even at the time of its release, when it was, a very fresh take on a shooter, it didn't do enough for me. I think one of the biggest issues I had with that game was that it never changes. The entire campaign, every stage, every wave of enemies, the gameplay never changes. you never get any kind of like shake-up. There's no variety. There's barely anything resembling boss fights in that game. And I'm not saying all shooters need that. Halo games don't really have bosses per se, but Halo has a lot more variety. You know, you have all these different vehicles you can drive at any point. You have big open areas. You have all these different like approaches you can take. The only thing I hated about the Halo games were those flood sections. But otherwise, I really liked Halo for just how much variety and replayability it had. Gears, on the other hand, it's very linear. Um, like even the level design is just so linear and so like you're just kind of connecting the dots. You take cover here, take cover there, take cover here, take cover there. New area, take cover here, take cover there, take cover. It's very like repetitive to me because again, there's just a real lack of variety. There's not that many enemies. Most of the enemies throughout the whole game are pretty much the same. How you shoot them and fight them is pretty much the same. There's not a whole lot of variety. It's a very bare bones campaign. And yeah, I just didn't get much out of it. Even the story is extremely basic, you know? It's a very typical, like, kind of an alien invasion story, except these things came out of, like, the Earth or something, the locusts. I don't remember, like, 100% the details, but I do remember it being very simple. Like, there's barely a story in that first game. Very simple plot, very simple, just beat these evil monsters, and by the end of the game, they're not even dead, because they leave all the room open for a sequel. There's no real ending. You just get on a train, and you take out one of the bigger baddies of these monsters, but then it's revealed that there's still plenty more, and it's like, there's not even much of a resolution to this game. Like, even the climax feels kind of like, you almost feel like you're halfway through a war or a campaign that still has to keep going. And it's like, I get that they want to make sequels. I get that they want to do the Halo thing, but like, it just felt like such a bare bones experience. You know, like what's there that works, you know, the cover-based gameplay, the intensity of your chainsaw gun, and I even liked the cool little reload mini game you have to do when you reload your gun. Like, there's lots of cool shit in Gears. It's just, there's not enough is the problem. Like, what's there is cool. It's just, I mean, I guess you could argue the characters are a bit one-dimensional. I don't know. They're not, I wouldn't say they're the most memorable characters in an action game I've ever experienced, but they're all right. I just think if the game had more variety, because at the end of the day, it's an action game, and I feel like any action game worth its salt needs variety. You need to, you know, shake things up every now and again. It's funny because I know Gears, according to the director, Cliff Bleszinski, who is a cool guy. He actually seems like a really cool guy, Cliff Bleszinski. I may not be a big Gears fan, at least when it comes to the original Gears of War. But, you know, I like what he was going for. And he said that Gears of War was inspired very heavily by Resident Evil 4, one of the best action games ever made. I mean, you can tell because it's not a first-person shooter. Gears is an over-the-shoulder shooter, just like Resident Evil 4. So it makes sense that he would have been influenced by that. But you gotta remember, Resident Evil 4, one of the things that made that game so great was it had tremendous variety. Enemy variety, bosses, set pieces, really cool level design, and Gears of War doesn't have any of that. You know, it just doesn't. Like, there's nothing to shake up the gameplay. There's nothing to, like, I'm not saying it needed puzzles. I'm not saying it needed even boss fights. It just needed something to shake up the gameplay from one area to the next. And here's the thing. There is a game that came out much later that builds on what Gears, the core Gears of War gameplay, and it builds on it really well. Vanquish. Vanquish by Platinum Games basically took, like, the core of Gears of War and made it much faster, made it much more varied and crazy, lots of cool boss fights, way more like level variety. It's a short game, but that game is bursting with variety, and every single stage is a different kind of set piece, and it still has that cool cover-based shooter gameplay, but there's so much more going on from 1 hour to the next in that game. Whereas Gears never changes. So I actually think ever since Vanquish especially, it's very hard to go back to something like Gears of War. It's just like, this has been done better, you know? And I would imagine the sequels, Gears 2, Gears 3, whatever, are probably better too. I'm sure they have more stuff. I'm sure they hopefully built on what the first game did, but I never got a chance to play those. Now, if they ever re-release those, if Gears 2 ever gets remastered, maybe I'll try that, because I've never played that one. But Gears 1 is just very lacking to me. That game needed so much more variety and stuff in it. But hey, it's still a win. It's still cool that this got re-released because it is considered a classic, regardless of my feelings about it. I still think it's important that this got released on PlayStation for the first time ever, and you know, hopefully it means maybe we'll get the Gears sequels, maybe we'll get Halo, who knows. But either way, it's interesting. I just wanted to put my feelings out there about this game, my history at the time, you know, because this is considered a big release, and I don't think I've ever mentioned it on here before. So, you guys tell me what you think in the comments. Did you love Gears of War? Are you excited for this remaster? Did you already pick up the remaster? And did you get something out of it that maybe I didn't? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. And until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.